Fear. The word alone carries weight. It is the invisible chain that holds men back from pursuing what is possible. It is the quiet thief of dreams, stealing silently in the night while its victims sleep. More opportunities have been lost to fear than to failure. More potential has been buried not because a man was incapable, but because he was unwilling to act while fear whispered its poisonous doubts. Understand this first. Fear is natural. You are not broken or weak because you feel it. Every man feels fear. The difference between those who rise and those who fall, however, is simple. The first understands what fear is and chooses to move anyway. The second allows fear to become his master and obeys it without question. If you wish to eliminate fear from your life forever, you must begin here, by facing it, studying it, and ultimately reducing it to what it truly is. A suggestion, not a command. Fear is often irrational. It disguises itself as caution, as wisdom, as protection. But look deeper and you will see its true nature. Most fears are not of life and death. They are fears of embarrassment, of rejection, of failure, of judgment. They are fears born in the mind, not the world. The majority of things you fear will never happen, and if they do, they are rarely as devastating as your mind imagines. Ask yourself, how many times has fear stopped you from speaking up, from reaching out, from taking a step that could have changed everything? Did that fear protect you or imprison you? Be honest. Most fears are illusions. They hold power only because you allow them to. The mind, left unchecked, will create stories that paralyze you. But stories are not reality. They are narratives, and narratives can be rewritten. To eliminate fear, begin first by becoming aware of it. You cannot conquer what you refuse to confront. When fear arises, do not turn away, do not distract yourself. Observe it, give it a name, see it clearly. Is it fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing control? By identifying fear precisely, you strip it of its ambiguity, and without ambiguity, fear begins to weaken. Next, challenge your fears with reason. Fear thrives in vagueness. When examined closely, most fears collapse. Suppose you fear failure. Ask yourself, what would truly happen if you failed? Would you lose everything? Would life end? Or would you simply face discomfort, learn a lesson, and try again with greater wisdom? Often, when we pursue fears to their logical conclusion, we find they are paper tigers, fierce only in appearance. Now comes the vital step: action. Fear cannot survive direct confrontation. The moment you act, in spite of fear, it diminishes. Not completely at first, but enough for you to move forward. Each time you face what frightens you, you gain power. Each time you retreat, fear gains power. This is the law. If you wish to eliminate fear forever, you must refuse to feed it. Starve fear by acting boldly and consistently. You must also understand the role of repetition. The first time you face a fear, it roars. The 10th time, it whimpers. Repetition kills fear. What was once terrifying becomes ordinary. Consider the man who fears public speaking. His first speech is filled with anxiety. His 10th, confidence begins to appear. By his 100th, he speaks as naturally as he breathes. Why? Not because the fear left him, but because he outgrew it through repetition. Finally, remember this profound truth. Fear will always exist, but its control over you is optional. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to proceed despite it. You will never reach a point where life presents no risks, no uncertainty, but you can reach a point where fear no longer dictates your choices. To eliminate fear from your life forever, you must change your relationship to it. See fear not as a signal to stop, but as a signal to pay attention, and then proceed. Every time you do this, fear weakens and you strengthen. Soon fear becomes like background noise, present but powerless. You were not born to live afraid. You were born to rise above fear, to master it, and to move boldly in the direction of your purpose. That journey begins today. By now you understand. Fear loses its grip each time you refuse to obey it. But let us go deeper, for fear does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It speaks softly through hesitation, through subtle procrastination, through the quiet voice that says, "Not now, maybe later." This, too, is fear. And in many ways, this form is even more dangerous than the obvious terrors that shake us. You see, a man may recognize great fear. He may know when he is terrified to make a decision or to take a bold step. But hesitation, delay, these disguise themselves as logic. They sound reasonable. Why rush, they say. Wait until everything is perfect. But perfection never arrives. Delay becomes habit, and so the man lives his life in pause. This is fear, clever and concealed. To eliminate fear forever, you must declare war not only on obvious fears, but also on hesitation. You must become the man who acts, not recklessly, but decisively. The man who does not wait for courage to arrive before beginning. The truth is this: courage does not precede action. Action precedes courage. Only by moving forward, step by step, task by task, does the feeling of confidence grow. This is why the bold seem fearless. They are not without fear. They have simply conditioned themselves to act regardless of it. Where others hesitate, they move. Where others pause, they progress. In this, they train themselves for greatness. For life rewards action, not hesitation. There is another subtle form of fear, the fear of judgment, the fear of what others may think. This fear, though invisible, binds millions in mediocrity. The man consumed by it asks himself too often, "What will they say? How will they perceive me?" And so he dilutes his dreams. He shrinks his ambitions. He edits himself to fit comfortably into the expectations of others. Understand this well. No man ever achieved greatness while chained to the opinions of the crowd. Those who leave a mark on the world walk alone at times. They endure whispers and criticism, but they persist because their loyalty is not to comfort, but to truth. If you wish to eliminate fear forever, you must sever the need for approval. Respect others, yes, but live to honor your own convictions, not to satisfy fleeting applause. And what of the fear of failure? This fear is the gatekeeper of ambition. It tells you to stay safe, to avoid risk, to remain where the ground feels familiar. But let me ask you, is failure truly the enemy, or is it the beginning of wisdom? Every man who built something of value has failed, not once, but many times. Failure taught him what success never could. It shaped him, hardened him, and prepared him. You must see failure as necessary, not fatal. When you stumble, and you will, rise with curiosity, not shame. Ask, "What did this teach me? How will I be better tomorrow because of this?" The man who sees failure as feedback rather than finality is a man who fears nothing. Another powerful tool in eliminating fear is preparation. Fear thrives in uncertainty. The unknown feeds anxiety, but the prepared mind fears less. When you know your material, you speak with confidence. When you have rehearsed, you act with poise. When you have planned, you move with assurance. Do not neglect preparation. It is not only the path to competence, it is the antidote to fear. Still, even with preparation, fear may arise. In these moments, presence is your shield. Fear lives in imagination. It draws its power from possible futures, none of which are real. But when you anchor yourself in the present, in the task at hand, in the breath you take, in the step you are on, fear cannot follow. It requires projection to survive. Presence starves it. So train yourself to return again and again to the moment. Focus on doing the work before you, not worrying about what might go wrong. Focus on controlling what you can, not fearing what you cannot. Focus on progress, however small, not perfection. In presence, fear fades like a shadow in sunlight. You see, now, fear is not removed by magic. It is eliminated through process, awareness, challenge, action, preparation, presence. These are the tools you will use again and again until fear becomes what it truly is: powerless. You were never meant to be ruled by fear, you were meant to rule over it. And in mastering fear, you do not simply survive life, you command it. By this stage, something important has become clear to you. Fear is not the mighty adversary it once appeared to be. It is smaller, quieter, and far more fragile when exposed to the light of deliberate thought and action. But while it may seem to retreat, you must remain vigilant. For fear, though weakened, is patient. If left unchecked, it will seek to regain its foothold, and so the work continues. To eliminate fear forever, you must do more than face it occasionally. You must build a life that does not invite it back. You must become the kind of person, through habits, thoughts, and actions, for whom fear finds no welcome. This is not simply about avoiding fear. It is about transcending it. And transcendence comes through standards. You see, the fearful man lives reactively. He responds to life's demands from a place of uncertainty. He waits for events to decide his fate. But the man who eliminates fear forever rises each day with clearer standards, non-negotiable principles that dictate how he will think, speak, and act. He does not wait for confidence to appear. He summons it through consistency. He does not negotiate with hesitation. He replaces it with predetermined action. This is why discipline is so vital. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom from chaos. A disciplined man fears less because he leaves less to chance. He shows up, he does the work, he faces discomfort until discomfort bows in submission. Without discipline, even the strongest man will become a servant to fear. With discipline, even the faint-hearted will become courageous in time. You must decide who you are long before fear challenges you. The man who decides in advance does not tremble when trials arise. He has already made the decision to persist, to endure, to overcome. Fear loses power in the presence of pre-made decisions. Another critical factor in eliminating fear is environment. The fearful man surrounds himself with voices of doubt. He allows negativity to echo and amplify his insecurities. But the wise man curates his surroundings carefully. He reads books that expand his mind. He listens to voices that elevate his thinking. He spends time with people who reflect courage, not complaint. Fear flourishes in toxic environments, but it withers in places filled with faith, ambition, and decisive action. And yet, even with the right environment and strong discipline, fear may still whisper. It is here that faith plays its role. Faith, not in the mystical sense, but in the deeply personal sense, is essential. You must have faith in yourself. Faith that even if you stumble, you will rise. Faith that even if you fail, you will learn. Faith that life, while unpredictable, rewards those who stay true to their path. Without faith, fear will always find a way in. It will remind you of every past mistake. It will point to every possible future disappointment. But faith answers back calmly yet firmly with this truth: I will face whatever comes, and I will prevail. Faith quiets fear, not by denying danger, but by affirming strength. Consider this: every great leap forward in history and in your personal life required faith. No invention, no enterprise, no relationship, no bold venture was ever undertaken without uncertainty. The achievers moved forward anyway. Why? Because they trusted themselves to figure it out along the way. They knew that fear would never disappear before action. Thus, as you continue to train yourself, make faith and discipline your constant companions. Expect fear to visit from time to time, but expect yourself to handle it. Welcome the feeling and then move anyway. Fear is loudest just before the leap, but beyond that leap it rarely follows. Ultimately, eliminating fear forever is not about erasing it from existence. It is about disarming it. It is about rising so far above it, so consistently that fear becomes irrelevant, not absent, but powerless. You will feel it occasionally, but you will no longer obey it. And when that day comes, when fear arrives and you no longer react, you will know you have won. Not because fear is gone, but because it no longer decides for you. You decide. Always. That is true freedom. There is something profound that happens when fear no longer holds the reins of your life. You begin to experience a shift, not just in your circumstances, but in your very essence. You become in word and deed a different kind of man. The fearful man reacts. The man who has eliminated fear creates. He wakes each morning with quiet authority. He no longer asks, "What will happen to me today?" Instead, he declares, "Here is what I will make happen today." You must understand this deeply. The absence of fear is not emptiness. It is not passivity. It is not recklessness. No, it is clarity. It is the sharpness of thought that only comes when noise has been silenced. When you eliminate fear, you also eliminate confusion. You see yourself clearly. You see your path clearly. And perhaps most importantly, you see obstacles clearly, not as threats, but as challenges to be solved. Once every decision was clouded by what if. Now decisions are guided by what must I do. This is the power of a trained, fearless mind. It no longer entertains endless debate. It no longer seeks endless validation. It sees and it acts. In this new state, failure too takes on a new meaning. The fearful man views failure as final. The fearless man views it as feedback. He understands that the road to any worthy destination is paved with setbacks. But where the weak man turns back, the man of courage adjusts. He does not collapse at the sight of difficulty. He adapts. He refines. He sharpens his skills and moves forward with even greater clarity. Consider the lives of the great achievers. They are not absent of failure, far from it. Their lives are filled with moments of defeat, of rejection, of trials. But observe carefully. None of these moments defined them. What defined them was their response. They stood up, they tried again, and each time they did, fear weakened its grip. Eventually it became nothing more than background noise, irrelevant in the face of their commitment. This is what awaits you as you continue. Fear is slowly starved of its influence. Each day you act in spite of it. Each time you choose courage over comfort, you are withdrawing energy from fear's grasp. And in turn, you are feeding strength. You are making boldness your default. You are conditioning yourself to move, to speak, to lead, even when uncertainty remains. At this point, your relationship with risk changes entirely. The fearful man views risk as danger. The fearless man views risk as opportunity. He knows that all growth lives beyond the borders of what is familiar. He has trained himself to run toward calculated risks, not away from them. And so while others stay within the confines of what is safe, he steps into new arenas, ready to meet whatever comes. In doing so, he discovers another powerful truth. The world rewards the bold. Not blindly, not always immediately, but eventually. Those who dare, who move despite uncertainty, who push into new territories, are met with opportunities unseen by the timid. Life itself begins to shape itself in response to such men. And here you stand on the edge of becoming such a man. You have begun to eliminate fear not by wishing it away, but by proving to yourself that you no longer need it. You have begun to live by higher standards, standards that leave no room for hesitation. You have begun to show up, even when fear whispers, "Stay comfortable." And each time you show up, you shrink fear's presence further. What you are learning now is timeless. Fear may knock, but you no longer answer. Fear may speak, but you no longer listen. You have other voices to attend to now, voices of purpose, of vision, of courage. You are becoming the man fear fears. And when you arrive at this level, you will see life differently, not as something to survive, but as something to shape. Not as a series of threats, but as an endless landscape of possibilities. As fear continues to lose its hold, something else quietly begins to emerge: power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. This is the rarest and most valuable power of all. When a man conquers his inner world, he discovers that the external world bends more easily to his will, not because the world has changed, but because he has. You see, a fearful man is always negotiating with life. He tiptoes through decisions, always seeking reassurance. He seeks guarantees where none exist. He asks, "What if I fail?" And so opportunities slip through his fingers. But a man who has eliminated fear does not negotiate. He decides, he commits, he takes possession of his future. He understands this profound truth. Indecision is itself a form of fear, and it is among the most costly. Clarity belongs to the courageous. The man free from fear makes decisions quickly and changes them slowly. He does not need to consult the opinions of the crowd. He does not waver with each new piece of gossip or trend. He chooses based on principles, based on vision, and based on what aligns with who he has decided to become. And this decisiveness spills into every area of life. In work, he moves confidently while others hesitate. In relationships, he speaks honestly while others hide behind polite evasions. In his personal pursuits, he aims high while others lower their standards in the name of being realistic. Fearful men dilute their goals to avoid disappointment. Fearless men elevate their standards to meet their true potential. And yet, this is not arrogance, this is not recklessness. The man who has removed fear from his life is not loud. He is not aggressive. In fact, he is calm. He is measured. There is no frantic energy in him. Why? Because he does not chase, he does not scramble. He simply advances. Fearless action does not look rushed, it looks controlled. There is power in stillness, and the man who has conquered fear moves from that still place. Such a man also begins to attract. People sense that he does not need them, yet he values them. He does not seek validation, yet he commands respect. He does not compete in the petty games of the insecure, yet he quietly rises above them. His presence speaks volumes, not through boasts, but through his mere existence. People trust those who trust themselves. They follow those who do not flinch. They admire those who move without asking for permission. And so success, too, becomes inevitable. Not because the fearless man seeks shortcuts or cheats the system, but because life has always rewarded clarity and confidence. Opportunities are naturally given to those who are ready, and readiness, more than talent, is what separates the achievers from the spectators. You see now, fear was never your protector. It was only ever your limiter. It convinced you to aim lower, to move slower, to ask for less. It told you stories to keep you small, stories about what might go wrong, stories about who you are not. But now, standing here, clearer, stronger, and more decisive, you realize something. Those stories were lies. You outgrew them the moment you stopped feeding them. And so, with fear removed, you operate on a new level. You begin to live according to vision instead of reaction. You define your goals boldly. You pursue them relentlessly. You face each day, not hoping to avoid pain, but seeking growth. You know that setbacks will come, yet you do not dread them. You know critics will speak, yet you do not hear them. You know failures will occur, yet you do not bow to them. Because you are no longer led by fear, you are led by purpose. And when purpose becomes your compass, fear has no place left to hide. And now, at the final stage of this journey, something becomes unmistakably clear. You did not simply remove fear, you replaced it. You replaced it with confidence, with clarity, with decisive, bold action. You replaced it with faith in your ability to endure and prevail. You replaced it with a sense of calm control over your own destiny. You see, nature does not allow a vacuum. When fear was pushed aside, something had to take its place. That something is the most powerful force a man can possess, self-trust. And self-trust, once built, is a fortress. It protects you from the storms of life. It shields you from the opinions of others. It stands as a permanent reminder that you are capable of facing and rising above anything. At this point, fear is not eradicated entirely, nor should it be. It exists now only as a faint echo, far removed from the command it once held. It reminds you, gently, of the stakes. But it no longer controls your decisions. It no longer dictates the terms of your life. You see it, you respect it, but you walk past it every time. You now know what most never will, that fear was never meant to be your guide. It was merely a signal, a question, and the answer to that question was always the same: move forward anyway. Through this repetition, through this steadfastness, you did what so many fail to do. You trained your mind to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal to proceed with wisdom and resolve. And what has this created? A man others admire, though they may not know why. A man whose presence speaks louder than his words. A man who does not shrink from responsibility, who does not hesitate in the face of uncertainty, who does not excuse himself from the challenges that shape him. You have become rare, not because fear does not visit you, but because you do not bow when it does. Look now at the life before you. It is filled with possibilities that once seemed distant, even impossible. Why? Because they were guarded by fear. You have since unlocked those gates, not because the world changed, but because you did. The man who removes fear becomes free, free to ask for more, free to try, free to fail and try again, free to lead, free to love, free to live on his own terms. And perhaps the greatest realization of all is this: when you eliminate fear, you do not just change your own life. You change every life you touch. Others see you standing tall and steady, and they begin to wonder, can I do the same? In this way, your courage multiplies. It ripples outward far beyond what you will ever fully witness. You become, without trying to be, a leader, a beacon, proof of what happens when a man refuses to live small. So I leave you with this: fear, though common, need not be your companion. It may visit, but it need not stay. You have the power to master it, to outgrow it, to reduce it to nothing more than background noise on the path to your greatest self. Eliminate fear, and what remains is simple, pure, and unshakable. You, unbound. You, acting boldly. You, living freely, as you're always meant to be.